Let's discuss with our legal panel. Joining us now, criminal defense attorney and former prosecutor Michael Cohen, former January 6th investigative counsel Marcus Childress, and Kelly Hyman, who is a trial attorney. Thank you all for sharing part of your evening with us. Michael, I want to start with you. The defense really wanted to paint Michael Cohen as having this vendetta against Trump. From the very start, they had Cohen confirm whether he once called Donald Trump a, quote, Cheeto-dusted cartoon villain. How important do you think it is for the defense to succeed in that effort to describe Cohen that way?
Well, Michael Cohen is the glue that holds the prosecution's case together, and they're trying to de-glue him. The problem with cross-examination is I have two lines when I do cross-examination I always try to keep in mind. Number one, it's easy to throw bombs. It's very hard to build houses. And cross-examination should not just be about throwing bombs. You have to have a house that you're building at the end. That is for summation. My other line is don't cut what you can untie. So if you can get information from Cohen without cutting him up, try to do that neatly. So I would probably not have been attacking him from the get-go and tried to see if I could get some information from him in a more amicable way initially, and then try to go after his credibility at the end, but different techniques. But defense has got to have to get more information than just trying to destroy his credibility, even though I do acknowledge credibility is very central to Michael Cohen's testimony.
Marcus, to that point, the prosecution sort of tried to preempt what they anticipated the defense would do. They brought up Cohen's history of lying, and Cohen said that he regretted his actions. He called the day that he pled guilty to lying the worst day of his life. Do you think they did enough to build him up as a credible witness with credible testimony for the jury?
Look, you got to applaud the prosecution for at least trying to raise the issues in the first instance so the jury's not hearing it for the first time in cross-examination. I think that's important for the prosecution remaining credible with the jury and showing, look, I'm out here just to put the facts out here for you all to then go back in deliberation and make a decision off of. Going back to the point that we just heard about the cross-examination, I think we have to remember that tomorrow is a break, right? And so we saw the Stormy Daniels testimony last week where you have a star witness testify on a Monday and Tuesday, and it leaves the defense with just a very small amount of time to do their cross-examination before the jury goes on a one-day break. And what I think I saw from the cross today and even from Stormy Daniels last week was just a sprawling cross to try to get in quick jabs that may not have landed, but just trying to get something in the jury's mind before they go home for the next 36 hours and when you can resume the cross-examination. So I think that might have been why the cross-examination might have been so scattered today. And maybe we'll see a much more streamlined through line of like what you're trying to establish and building that house like we just heard through cross-examination on Thursday.
Now that's interesting. Kelly, I'm curious, how do you think the defense did, given what Marcus laid out, the fact that tomorrow is an off day and they sort of have to leave the jury with this initial impression that they got from the prosecution about Michael Cohen?
It was flat. Absolutely flat. So if we think about it, talking about a house, it was a house that was absolutely torn down. They started out very strong, very aggressive, but defense counsel made a mistake. They made it about themselves. The first question they asked was about Michael Cohen posting about Trump's defense counsel on TikTok and what he called him, where the judge called him over and basically said, why are you making this about you? This is about defense counsel. And that was a key mistake. And also the fact that they didn't elicit any really good testimony from him. As one of the person noted, the state was very, very smart in bringing out all his bad acts in the beginning. I mean, the good, the bad, and the ugly. We have to remember that Michael Cohen has more baggage than they would sell at Walmart. I mean, he comes in with a whole truckload of stuff. And so that should have been the issue. That's where they should have started, with his lies.
The personal relationships between some of the folks in Trump's orbit, to me, is fascinating, Michael. Cohen admitted in court today that he viewed the Trump family as a surrogate family. He admitted that he missed Trump, two former aides as well, Hope Hicks and Madeleine Westerhout. They also spoke about Trump in very personal terms. How do you think that proximity to each other and the way the defenses try to paint this as a betrayal plays into what the jury is seeing?
It actually can cut both ways. When you think about it, it's much harder to testify against people who you cared for and loved and thought highly about. That's why some of these witnesses cried on the stand. Hope Hicks cried. McConney was in tears. People obviously had a good relationship there. They liked the job. Michael Cohen, rather, he felt that he had a strong relationship with Trump and did feel betrayed by him, and that's hence the name of his book, Disloyal and Revenge. But there's a fine line, people who feel that they've given their lives to a particular person or entity or company and then feel that they've been cut loose or not treated appropriately. It's a very fine line between love and hate. And it looks, Michael Cohen's been very clear that that line's been crossed, and he just does not like Donald Trump. He's admitted that, wants to see him in jail. But, the fact of that positive relationship, I think, can cut both ways.
Marcus, I'm also interested in getting your perspective on how that anti-Trump merchandise plays into all of this, because it's online and it clearly shows that Cohen has very ill feelings about Donald Trump, at least the way that Trump treated him. What do you make of that aspect of the defense bringing it up?
Look, it's not a good fact for the prosecution, but I don't think it's as damaging right now because there hasn't been enough that's been brought out to refute the testimony that Michael Cohen actually gave. I agree. I think we should have started, and by we, I'm talking like I'm still a criminal defense attorney, so I apologize. I think that the defense should have started by, refuting the actual testimony that Michael Cohen gave. Talk about his inconsistent statements, whether it be to investigators or to Congress, or his inconsistent statements about even how the hush money payments were made. I think that's where I would have started, and then move to, well, you're telling these lies and now you're allegedly telling the truth because you actually hate Donald Trump, right? So like establishing the lies and then giving the jury a why this person is now supposedly telling the truth is kind of the timeline I would have taken, because I thought the prosecution did a great job of establishing how Michael Cohen could have gone from loving a man to now testifying against him. I was waiting for that. What's the reason that now in 2019 that you're now able to, or 2018, now you're able to talk freely about Trump? And he said, my family. I looked at my family, and then my son said, why are you doing this? And I thought it may not be, the best or believable story, but it's a story that the prosecution can explain why Michael Cohen is now cooperating. And I think that the defense has to do the same with why now he's lied in the past and he's continuing to lie now in the current case.
That's a story about, that's a story about redemption. It's a story that Americans love, right? He made a mistake. Mea culpa is the name of his podcast. I'm sorry, the comeback kid. Americans love that story because we can personally relate to it. And I think that was really key about this redemption moment. I'm going to make a change. I'm going to do better.
Kelly, what about the reporting that this was, at least as planned, the prosecution's final witness? Do you think they've proven their case with Michael Cohen? Are you surprised that they're closing with him?
Well, ultimately, that's going to be up to the jury. There was some discussion that there might have someone on the witness stand kind of talking about the law, going over the law, but they believed, based on the evidence and the facts, that they've proved their case. Now, we also have to remember that this is a very document-heavy case, right? This is about business records and providing all these documents, and they did this with all the other witnesses that Michael Cohen substantiated on his testimony as well. Prosecution's done a great job. Ultimately, we'll see what the jury does.
Michael, what are your thoughts about? Yeah, go ahead.
I apologize. Yeah, if I might just add something to what Kelly just said, which is a great point. This Weisselberg issue, I don't know how adequately it's been addressed. He hasn't been called as a witness by either side. The defense has no burden of proof, and the prosecution is not obligated to call any witnesses, particular witnesses, to prove their case. But one of the issues is going to be here, how is the judge going to deal with the absence of that witness? Is the defense on their prosecution, on their summation, going to ask, hey, ladies and gentlemen, why didn't the government call, why didn't the people call Weisselberg? That is not necessarily a fair comment, particularly if they know Weisselberg would not have testified. I'm going to be curious to see how that's going to be dealt with, because that could be, this missing witness issue could be a very significant issue if the jury goes in there and is allowed to speculate about it. I'm hoping the judge won't allow them to do that. And I just want to say one more quick thing about what Marcus had said. When Mershon kind of rebuked Blanche and said, this isn't about you, Mershon had to be thinking, every day Donald Trump gets out of court and lambasts me as corrupt and a liar and a criminal and a crook, and I take it. because that's my job. It's not about me. Don't make this about you. And I can assure that, knowing Mershon, I've tried cases in front of him, he was thinking that.
Oh, fascinating. Michael, Marcus, Kelly, stay with us. Plenty more to discuss.